All right, welcome to another episode of the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast here. October
What
7th.
episode number is this?
I think it's 58 this week. And we're going to have our guy Matteo back on. He joined us around the trade deadline for the baseball season. And we said we wanted to have him back on when the Giants season was over and officially.
Is this the first returning guest?
I think this is other than Brian, that.
They're just special co-hosts.
Yeah, they're special co-hosts at this point. Yeah, no, he's coming back, and we said we'd have him back on. So I'm curious to get his takes on the Giants-Dodgers series here that was wrapped up, and maybe a little bit of the Dodgers, Braves, Astros, Red Sox. And I know you want to ask him a few questions on the Lance and Niners situation. To get his Giants takes. He's a big Giants fan. He's got good knowledge on them. It's quite the series. We have a lot to dive into with him. Giants offense, bullpen decisions, where's Posey's plays, free agents, offseason. So if you're a Giants fan here, this is a good podcast for you to listen to. We're going to really dive into the Dodgers-Giants series. And obviously that was heartbreaking, but I know these two guys think 107 wins, 6th most ever, is also quite the accomplishment, and had to at least give them some entertainment for 6 months. So
yeah, it was a great season.
We'll get your guys' takes on that. Definitely get Mateo's. Looking forward to get his takes on that as well here. But before we do, he'll be joining us here in a couple minutes. Just got a text from him. How was your week?
It was good. I went golfing with Nick on yesterday morning. Shot a 79 at Oakmont, the small Oakmont course. He shot a 78. I was putting unbelievable. It was the most fun I've had golfing in a long time.
Dang! How much did you beat Nick by?
He beat me by 1.
Dang! You both played unreal.
Yeah, my chipping's come back. I figured out how to chip with this new 56-degree wedge.
Oh man, I got to pick up my game if I'm going to come out with you guys out there.
It was the small course at Oakmont. The par's like 60.
That's the fun one. That's the one when I was on. That was the one when I was on the golf team. We would play 3 days a week. It was the other one.
That one.
Yeah, that one's fun. There's some challenging holes there though.
You got to keep the wall straight, or you
got to go to that north one now. After I sent you that documentary, I don't know if you actually watched it, but it's really.
I did. It was really cool. I didn't know it was made by the Masters designer, and
I'm like, you got 10 free passes this place, man. Take advantage of it. You got Friday
it's
off.
Tough when you work 2 jobs, but
you had Friday off the other day, yesterday. Get out.
Yeah, but I had chores I had to do while I was moving out to get. Sound like an idiot for moving out.
That's right. All right, yeah. I had a good week, a busy week, man. This fall is always this busy. You got sports, but it's cool.
I heard your son scored his first goal.
He did get his first goal, so that was really cool to see. I was really proud of him.
Proud dad moment.
Got to give him a little high five. He put his arm up in the air after he scored, and it was kind of exciting, and you could tell he felt like he really accomplished something there. He's really starting to understand the game a little bit, which is neat. Somebody that coaches the team, you're like, all right, at least they're starting to kind of get the game a little bit more. So we still need to work on throw-ins. I'm like, no, you don't want to go on the other side of the field that far. You want to go that way, up the line. So there's still a lot of things we need to work on, but we finally played a team that was like in our playing field, like at our level.
Yeah.
I think we actually won like 8-4. So it was like the first game where I had to work on like sportsmanship. Like, I think we're up 7-1 now. Like they're like yelling it off the field. I was like, you can't say that. You need to,
yeah.
So it was kind of different there. So that was fun.
I heard he got. This is my most proud thing of him. I heard he got his first sports video game.
He did.
That's awesome. That warms my heart.
Yeah, you'll have to play him in FIFA now when you're down here. We've played that a few times as well.
Hundreds.
And I got to give a special shout out to my brother Casey. He's not gonna be able to make this podcast, but he was just with us in the NBA preview one we just shot that we'll have out later this week.
3 podcasts this week, by the way. I'm very proud of us.
Yeah, very, very impressive.
Like and subscribe.
He videotaped it. He caught it on tape, so he was the one that he gets a special shout out for catching it on tape there. So
he sent it to me.
Well done, Casey. Well done on that one. I will send it to you.
No, he sent it to me.
Oh, he sent it to me. So yeah, so that was probably the highlight of the week there. Next week's going to be a busy week with basketball starting up for me at the school. So we'll see how that goes. Busy week, got volleyball stuff I'm dealing with, so we'll see how that plays out too. But it'll be fun. Fun to have basketball back and just coaching it again. So, all right. Well, let's get Matteo on here. We'll get into the baseball side of things. Your guys' heartbreak, which I don't enjoy, but I do kind of at times.
I think you take a little glee in it.
I do a little
glee in that. There's a little sparkle in that eye.
Maybe a little sparkle. We'll talk about that sparkle a little bit more. All right, Matteo coming up. All right, we're back here on the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast, and like Tyler mentioned, the first ever, second, the reappearance here of a guest here. Matteo, thanks for coming back on the podcast. You came back on. I was listening back to it. You came back on, I think the day after the trade deadline, when or maybe the 2 days after, something like that, when they got Chris Bryant.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about having you back on after the playoffs, after they lost, or after they won the championship. Unfortunately, having you on a little earlier probably than you wanted, I guess, at this point. But thanks for jumping on the podcast again. You always have really good Giants takes and other takes as well. So, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks. Good seeing you guys. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I know this is early for you too. Out here at 7:30. So, like I said, we'll yell loud here. I mean, we can do that once in a while. We're up here.
It's nice. I always see you sipping coffee during it, so I'm like, okay, I can get away with some coffee.
Oh, big time! Yeah, I'm a third cupper sometimes.
We don't get through this without coffee.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need multiple cups here. I remember I was at this thing with this guy, and he's like, I was like, just had a kid for 2 years, and he goes, you don't drink coffee, and he goes, and you have kids. And then I remember the next day I was like, maybe I should go try it. I've been drinking it ever since. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. All right, let's get into the Giants, Dodgers, and the Giants in general here. Just your initial thoughts on the series. Obviously, Giants lose 3-2. And let me just get what a season, 107 wins, 6th most ever. You know what I mean? Crazy. Crazy to me that total. Just your initial thoughts on the Giants there.
It's hard not to be. If you told every Giants fan going into this that they would get into a game 5 with the Dodgers, they'd win the division, it would be, you'd want that. But at the end of the year, you're still disappointed. Everything changes. You have to raise the expectations when you have one of the greatest seasons of all time and you get knocked out in round 1. So, that's kind of where I'm at.
The hardest part to me is just losing to the frickin' Dodgers.
Yep.
Losing to the Braves, it would have been like, I can get over this. But quicker, this is going to last a lifetime until we beat them is in the playoffs. So that's what makes it so tough for me. But like you said, the season was an entertaining 6 months. They never went in a drought where it was upsetting to watch them. They were always exciting. They played well. You could tell they loved each other. The city embraced it. It was just a great season. This has a sour taste at the end of it.
Right, I agree with you. I think that's the toughest part is you got to wear that loss to the Dodgers. It's the first one in San Francisco history, and so it's always going to kind of leave a mark until the next time they meet. Hopefully, that'll be next year.
I remember when we did have you on last time. I remember asking you that same question. I remember you saying that's why you were nervous about the matchup is if you lost to him, you didn't want that feeling. And that's what you're saying right now with it. Let's get to the series itself. Webb is fantastic in the first game. You guys go out and win that one. Just a spectacular performance in game 1. His movement reminds me of Tim Hudson, but he's even more in the strike zone than Tim Hudson, and he throws a little bit harder than him. He just always has something. There's always movement on his pitch. It's very rarely straight, and he kind of has that mentality when he's on the mound. I like his facial expressions. And you guys got to love him on the mound when he's out there. And then at that point, to me, the turning point is they only scored 5 runs the rest of the series. I'm curious to get your and Tyler's take on just where you thought the series turned. Go ahead, Matteo.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. That was kind of the nice part is when you're doing the autopsy of the whole series, it's just they didn't hit. At the end of the day, they ended up being one left-handed bat, probably too short. It was tough losing Belt. You lost power, and we watched they draw the last 2 or 3 games. I couldn't even remember if they even drew one or two. And then Yaz was the big disappointment to end up with no hits in the series, for him to not hit left-handed pitching like he was last year. And I mean, for his on base to be so low, I mean, he was a black hole, and they just didn't know what to do. And they probably, I want to say they stuck with him too long, but at what point, what other options do you have? So that to me, it was just, they didn't hit with runners in scoring. What they have to live with going into the offseason.
Yeah, I agree with that. They, not to be rude, but they look like the Oakland A's in the playoffs as far as getting clutch hits. They just
unnecessary cheap shot.
They were the Giants of the World Series championship clutchness, and like you said, they needed a left-handed bat, and I never thought I'd miss Brandon Belt so much.
Yeah, I mean, it really hurt, even with the approach. I mean, just taking pitches and seeing pitches. It just didn't seem like it. And maybe they were flustered by the zones they were seeing from the umpiring crew the last 3 or 4 games, because they didn't really adjust well to it, and the Dodgers did a better job with it.
What was your favorite part of the series from the Giants moment? The Webb game, the jump at shortstop, the home run. What was it that you liked? What was your favorite moment of the series?
Yeah, it had to be the Crawford jump and them getting through that 1-0 game. It felt good. You kind of thought, okay, they got 2 chances at this. They've won over 100 games. You know, if they're that type of team, they're going to take it home, and they didn't do it. But it was a great feeling coming out of game 3 and being like, okay, they got a chance to kind of throw away game 4, and then you have game 5 at home, and it just didn't work out. But you know, that game, that was one of the most stressful games. I think probably since the Niners Super Bowl, I was stressed out from start to finish.
Game 3.
Yeah, game 3 against Scherzer.
And then you guys had to like Lux at the end, like he was complaining at that.
The win.
It created a good chunk of memes, which is always nice. Anytime you can get content out of someone's final out,
exactly,
it's always nice.
Well, not when it's a check swing. It's not as nice.
That's true too.
I thought for me, like watching it as kind of like a third party fan here, like, you know, obviously, you know, both teams are in the West Coast, so I watch them a lot. Especially the Dodgers got so many guys on my fantasy team this year. So I had them on the radio a ton this year. I always felt you guys Tyler was saying it a lot of the years. They just have better players. And sometimes in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter in baseball. But it did feel like there were some special plays that the Dodgers superstars made that maybe were turning point plays, like Betts, like, right? Like, I just feel like Betts, like, was kind of
we couldn't get him out in game 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but just like the throw in game 4, right? You know, wasn't it game 4, I believe? And then I don't know. He just seemed to me like he just made so many clutch plays.
No, I agree. I think the superstars do kind of come out, and also it's the bottom of their lineup started hitting, and that's where I was a little bit worried, is they got really deep once they added Taylor and Lux. I mean, those are really difficult outs. So and once they started that in the game 5, the bullpen game, and you're facing a pinch hitter pretty much almost every 9th hole guy, it's like, okay, 7, 8, and 9 is a lot harder compared to what the Giants were giving you, and you're adding more stress onto those arms. It's a rounded lineup, and they're freaking missing Muncy too.
And Bellinger looks like he might have a little playoff gene to him, a little little magic to him, doesn't he?
Yeah, two mistakes, and he kills them. He just killed them.
Tyler kind of been ripping on their bullpen a little bit the whole year, but he kept saying, like, their stats say they're the best. Like, there was a little, like, kind of, they were missing McGee, to be fair, and stuff, you know, to their team a little bit, but he might have made a little bit of a difference there at the end. He maybe would have made a big difference there. But you know, that obviously
Watson too. I think them losing Watson kind of hurt, because he had done a really good job coming over at the trade deadline. He could pitch righties as well. He was probably better average wise. I think this year than against left-handed hitting.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the Giants, and that was a big point too. The Dodgers bullpen was better, a lot better.
Yeah, Leone and Luttrell, they just not.
You always mention those poor guys.
What happens?
I don't like those,
because then you're hitting not just the depth of their pitching. Yeah, so I mean, it was tough, because then you're like, you hit Scherzer, and then you're like, oh shit, so we got to go into extras against Scherzer, and we had anybody, and we just dealt with, their other number one starter. I mean, it's just insane.
I'm curious, guys. Go ahead, Tyler.
The Dodgers didn't have May or Kershaw. They were just their starting pitching was depleted, and we couldn't hit. It just all comes down to hitting with runners in scoring position.
That's where you guys won those World Series. You were special in those areas. You guys were always getting.
I also think I kind of mentioned it to Tyler and Brian in our little group chat we got. It's tough in a 5-game series too when you can structure your team where you can throw your 3 best guys. For the Giants, it's Webb twice. Gosman, you're hoping can kind of rekindle some of that magic from the first half. And then they didn't have anybody now stretch that match. I mean, Wood pitched great. I mean, I loved what Wood could do, but I mean, the Dodgers just did a great job with the way they managed those starters, having 3 aces up their sleeve. They were ready for it.
Yeah, they kind of pitched with a little more urgency and had their starters come back on short rest where we were winning the series. So we felt that we didn't need to do that. And maybe that cost us. Maybe I loved what Dave Roberts did, not starting Urias. I thought it was I wouldn't have liked it if my team did that. But when he did that, I was like, oh, that's a smart move just to try and get
it almost cost him in that first inning now.
It would have been us blowing him up if he didn't. But you see the logic when it works. Because then you hit the 3rd through 6th inning and you're like, okay, now we've got to pinch hit. Now we need coverage here. It puts a lot of stress on the team.
And you know what? And when I say it barely worked, what I mean is Ruff took him 408 feet. And then Posey hit him right off the wall. Meaning he did get away with two early shots, the guy in that first inning, I thought he got away. If that was Dodger Stadium, that might be 2 home runs right there. That's all my first thought was that. I was like, oh, they got a break there. I'm curious to think where your guys is where the rivalry goes from here. Does it become more national? To me, it's more of a fake national rivalry. The East Coast doesn't really respect it enough to where it's always on TV all the time, like the Yankees, Red Sox. And what I mean by fake is it doesn't get enough. I feel like it just doesn't have that enough build up to where it actually deserves.
Yeah, it doesn't get enough recognition.
Does this help it at all?
It has to. I mean, once they play again, this will be referenced back, and it just builds up the hatred and the animosity that fan bases. I bet these fan bases hate each other more or just as much as Yankees, Red Sox. There is no love lost between these 2 teams.
And I also think now, I mean, with both teams coming off great season, we'll see how they schedule it on Sunday Night Baseball and the primetime games. Make it a little more serious because they thought it was going to be Padres, Dodgers going into it too. And they gave a lot of airtime to those 2 teams, because they thought, we were going to win 75 games. I should say the Giants, not we, but the Giants are going to win 75 games. So, some of that is kind of, I can't blame the media on that one.
You buy the merchandise. You can say we. It's all right. We say
that's kind of the way I've always kind of viewed it as I've got some form of ownership because I invest in the team.
To me, for God's sakes, they made you go to the game with no alcohol on the ferry. That's
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. They didn't change it either.
So that's the new rule. They don't sell alcohol on the ferry?
For now, I got to imagine 2022, they're going to put
we gotta
beer
make
back
money.
on. I know. It's just crazy. You can't have dry boats. It's like a dry wedding.
All right, so we got the turning point. We got the series there. I want to get you guys' take on a guy on the team that, to me, he's the stats that they kept saying about this guy just puts him at another level to where he doesn't get the respect enough. And that's Buster Posey. I mean, the stat, when I heard that he had 13 shutouts as a catcher in the postseason, and the next most is Yadier Molina. And Yadier Molina has 40 more playoff games than him. And he's such a quality hitter. Even some of the outs he made were, they were quality at bats. There's got to be nobody else you want it more than him. I mean, you guys got to be this is he's got to be a legend in your guys' eyes. I mean, I don't know how old you are when he first came up, but he's got to be the best player kind of in maybe your lifetime right here, other than Bonds. Tyler,
I don't think it's close. He's the most.
Yeah.
accomplished, and he just affects the game in so many ways. He had a couple off seasons before COVID hit, but this year he just was back to his normal self, is the way he hit the ball. And he catches the game better than anybody. He called it better. Every pitcher loves throwing to him, except Lincecum had a little thing where he went away from him for some reason. But Lincecum's a weirdo in a way, but yeah, like the way he thinks. But Posey's just spectacular. He's my favorite player.
Is he your favorite player?
Since Bond.
Not Lincecum?
No, probably Posey. Posey just has been on all 3 championship teams. He's been a staple of my life since 2010.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Matteo, on Posey there?
Pretty same thing as Tyler. I mean, he's probably out of that decade of all the championships. I mean, he's the most steady player. He doesn't complain. You know, just the leadership. It's nice to see. It took kind of come back and bounce back for people to give him a little more respect.
A little bit more respect there.
Say, hey, you know, this.
You were kind of cutting out there, so I was trying to hear you.
Oh yeah, I don't know why my internet's so unstable.
No worry. We're hearing you for the most part. It was just there.
There, okay. But you know, that he's finally a Hall of Famer, and I mean, just he's kind of like their Steph Curry, just in terms of personality.
For sure.
I mean, he's just so steady.
Free agents next year. You guys got Cueto. Posey's actually a free agent. Belt's a free agent. You signed Crawford, so he's not there. Is there anybody else, a free agent that I'm forgetting? That's a big one. Gosman in there. I thought it was him too. What do
Chris
you guys
Bryant.
think? What do you guys think they do? Do they go bigger? I mean, Matteo, you said that was the first thing you said is you like to see them go bigger. Does that mean they bring up their prospects? I mean, they sign the guys they have. Do they sign more guys? And like Tyler's theory last year, you know, what do they do now?
In my opinion, I hope it raises the urgency level for them, because they did fall short. And then you see, not that they planned it out like this, but the Dodgers have Pollock coming off the bench for them in certain situations, and he's making $60 million. You know, some of that's their farm system too, but I would love to see them. I mentioned another left-handed bat. I mean, Escobar is out there. Is it Kana? Marcana is going to be available too. He seems like the perfect Giant. But I guess it starts with bringing back your own guys, though. I would think Belt with the qualifying offer at $18 million. You definitely re-sign Chris Bryant, in my opinion. And then you kind of figure out with your farm system, is there a move you can make? I don't know what that move would be, but is there somebody you can get, like a big frontline starter would be really cool to land, because they fell short on the starting pitching too.
I have a question for you about as far as they drafted a catcher this year. They have Posey, I assume, for 2 more years minimum, or I would guess. Would you trade Bart?
He's a free agent.
They're gonna bring Posey back though.
Well, are they?
Absolutely.
All right.
Is there even a question? Like, is that?
I don't know.
They don't bring
guys.
I guess the question is he gonna retire? Because like you would think they would have gotten the kind of like Crawford out of the way, because that one's such a no-brainer. I mean, there is rumors that he might hang it up too.
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility.
So you know, the free agents right now, you get you. When you guys say big signing, are you more thinking pitching or offense?
We need both.
It's both. If I had to pick one, it's probably pitching, right? Because you've got Logan Webb, and then that's really it. And the guy I keep kind of hammering is they should bring Kershaw over. I think that would be fantastic if they added Kershaw to their rotation. Just it would be like Sherman joining the Niners, just to add a little bit more spice to the rivalry.
That would be weird if that happened.
It'd be strange.
I think they're gonna bring back Cueto too. That seems like a far-out move, where he was he made $22 million this year. I could see him bringing him back on like a minimum deal or something if he doesn't get signed.
Roster. That's the tough part for me, is he didn't make the playoff roster.
Yeah, that's true. I also think like maybe a guy like, Arenado, he's the best probably free agent right now on the offensive end. Is that like too big of a splash?
I'd rather just bring Chris Bryant back, and because he's more versatile.
Play him at third base.
He can play anywhere.
Yeah, I think they Chris Bryant should definitely be the guy. They know how he fits in the clubhouse. He can play 5 positions. I mean, it seems everything that they want for lineup flexibility.
And he's a
Corey
West
Seager?
Coast guy for the most part.
Corey Seager, that'd be nice.
Oh man, Seager would be awesome.
Talk about
He'd be
flipping a
great.
guy from the Giants to the Dodgers to the Giants. That would be a nice one right there. Yeah, we'll see the Giants. They're always pretty creative there, so we'll see what they do in the offseason there. Tyler, you got anything else on the Giants there?
Looking back on it, just like as a hypothetical, would you like? We have a great farm system. Not even looking back on it. Looking forward, what do you see? Who's like your player comp for Luciano?
Oh man, God.
Because mine, I'll just give you mine. Is like Carlos Correa is like the mid, and then the floor is something else, and the ceiling's the best player in the league.
He might be built a little bit thinner than him, but kind of. I got Jose Ramos or Ramirez would be one that kind of jumps to in terms of style of power and swing. God, I'm blanking. I wasn't ready. There was somebody else, and I just can't remember the guy that I always use as the Luciano comp.
Now the Giants were kind of like at the beginning of this year. I was like, oh, we'll see what kind of young guys they bring up. They're at the end of the year because when they're horrible, obviously that wasn't the case this year. So do they end up bringing back these young? Do they end up bringing up these young guys, or do they let them stay in the minors again?
No, it's a great question. I don't know the answer. I'm really curious on does Ramos get a shot to break camp? Does Luciano, is he up halfway?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, we'll see what happens there at the. Who do you got for the rest of the playoffs here? Who you got? What do you like in the NL, AL?
Probably Dodgers, Astros, but I'd rather it be Braves, Astros.
That would be a juicy matchup, though, Dodgers Astros.
Yeah, it would be. So I'm going to stick with Dodgers, Astros.
I mean, just from a drama standpoint, right? You want to have a game you want to watch, really. The Braves just don't do it for me. That's why you guys wanted to play them. They're easy.
Yeah, they don't even have their best player right now.
No, I agree, but I also kind of like the Braves. Kind of remind me of like the using the basketball comparison, like the Bucks and the Raptors, where they pushed all in, even though everything went wrong for them.
Yeah.
So I always appreciate teams that are rewarded for not giving up, because a lot of times, and I'm in this boat, I'll scream sell, 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 and then all of a sudden, the teams stay competitive and they end up in a championship. So credit to them.
And they even lost their best player, so which is even more crazy with them. All right, so why don't we take a quick little break right here on baseball there, and we'll come back and get your quick thoughts on maybe the Niners here and what's going on with the drama down there in Santa Clara. All right, we're back here with Matteo. We're going to stick with another team here in the Bay Area that kind of been on the downward trend here we talked about the Giants losing there in the playoffs. Last time we had you on, we had an interesting discussion about the Niners, and it's not the biggest takeaway we had for me was the scenario that I always bring up is what would happen if the Niners got to 2-2. Me and Tyler always debated every week here. Tyler seems to have flipped a little bit now where he wants Lance. I'll let him defend himself in a second here. But at the beginning of it, you said that Shanahan wouldn't be able to resist basically the new toy here. He kind of got his hand forced a little bit with the injury here to Lance. Where do you kind of see that kind of situation from where we talked back in August?
I was wrong. He's been able to resist a lot more than I thought. That's for sure. Because I don't get it. I've just been confused kind of on it. And to his credit, some of it is justified. Like when you see him against the Seahawks, some of it is like, okay, he shouldn't have started the year, because I believe I was on here and I was like, hey, they got to start him. I would start him. But yeah, I mean, credit to Kyle he's still really, I don't know if he believes or if Jimmy's just the only option that he knows the offense full and all the way through, but he's done a good job resisting putting Lance in at any. I mean, he could have done it. Eagles, every game he had an opportunity. Every game that I've watched, I'm like, I don't know how Kyle doesn't go right to the Lance option.
I I want to get into not even the team more. It's more the fans. Is it the most like divided fan base in the Bay Area, or maybe even nationally? I feel like no one sees eye to eye on this team.
Yeah, I
How
think
do you
so.
feel about that?
I agree, but I also think it's just like that in general with the Niners. I mean, we went through it with Kaepernick and Alex Smith. I remember talking with buddies during the big drive with during the Super Bowl of 2012. It's like, dude, let's put Alex Smith back in. And this is in the Super Bowl that people are trying to are divided on the quarterback. So I always think it's going to be a lightning rod issue in this area. Just no way around it.
Go T.
I've seen a lot of things on Twitter about Shanahan. I think he's a top 5, maybe not top, a top 10 head coach right now. Do you feel like he's deserved of that, or do you think he's bottom something, or what do you think about Shanahan?
I feel in terms of play calling, he's top 5. Like I feel there's too much criticism towards his play calling, because when you go and you look up cut-ups, there's a lot of dudes that are still running open. A lot of guys that he schemes running open. I do think you should question their personnel, though, their decisions. I think that's the part where I'm always a little bothered on their process of things, and areas where they go in. Cornerbacks one where they don't invest in cornerback, and the main guy that they're depending on is somebody that's injury prone. And I love Jason Verrett, but he ended up getting hurt the first game. So now you have a big hole at cornerback in a passing league. I mean, there's a lot of things that they just haven't seemed to figure out in 5 years in terms of where to place their money.
And especially when their defensive line's not getting the same effectiveness it was 2 years ago. Yeah, I have this theory with the NFL that like runs are just so short-lived, and there's magical seasons, and maybe the Niners roster just isn't that good, and they just kind of had maybe all things came together in the league that year with their schedule that year with their team. Is that a possibility, or do you guys just feel like they're underachieving? I mean, you usually just don't win Super Bowls with like Garoppolo's. It's not a common theme.
Like I said last week on the podcast, I lost my train of thought. This roster just isn't good enough to be anymore. McGlinchey is a sieve now. I don't know what happened to him. They drafted a guard that can't even get on the field. Trey Sermon looks like he runs in molasses, even like, and they don't play him. And then
you got the injury.
And you brought up the personnel is the issue. That's not a Shanahan thing. Doesn't that go back to Lynch more than Shanahan though?
Me and you kind of debated this in the offseason. I mean, it's 51% Lynch having the final call, 49 Kyle, but it's pretty much known that Kyle picks the offensive guys. I mean, he traded up for Joe Williams, burned out. He traded up for Dante Pettis, or he pushed for those guys. And John's admitted, he said that he leaves a lot of the offensive decisions up to Kyle because Kyle knows the fits for his offense.
I heard he didn't want Trey though, and he wanted Mac, and John Lynch took over and said
that one's got so many different stories. I really don't know what to believe on it and who to believe. After the guys that I kind of trusted, like Schefter and Rap Sheet, were pushing that Jones was likely the pick, and then it changes. So I don't know who had good information. I don't know who was leaking. I don't know who's trying to save face. Especially with what I mean, and this is, you'd have to trust Lynch on this, is him saying that Kyle, after Justin Fields' pro day, was drawing up plays for Trey Lance on the flight home. That's how excited he was about Lance. But who's really telling the truth in this situation? No party's going to want to look bad.
I mean, don't you guys also think that their offense maybe just might not be, like, you're saying that their guys are open, but if they're not running the ball well, it seems like his scheme is more, and you don't have a healthy Kittle. I mean, it doesn't seem like that power, like, kind of thing he's going for, where we want to run the ball 300 times. Like that to me, it seems like they don't have an identity.
No, I think that's the best way to phrase it right now, is they thought they could sustain one way, and then they have Lance on the back burner, and they know eventually that's the way they're going to go. And they built all this personnel towards the run heavy, and it may work with Lance, but what are you going to do if you got a guy that can take, with a bigger arm, that can take deeper shots too? That changes the way you block, the way you hold your blocks. I I don't know. It's weird. It's this weird thing that I thought they were going to handle a little bit better, and it's been really clunky. And it's surprising that the offense has been this clunky.
And that's why last year I thought Mostert was so important to this team. Is he gives them that edge threat on like running the ball that's just lethal, and he's so good when he's healthy. But once again, like Jason Verrett, he's just always hurt. So, and then Elijah Mitchell looked good week 1. He looked good. They don't give the ball to anybody. Last week the play call, like I love Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a great play call. Last week he wasn't good.
Our friend Brian that comes on here is really harsh on people, and I don't know if you heard the last spot. He's really harsh on Shanahan, but he just thinks some of his play calls are just like Tyler said, he's over him a little bit. So I think he's an overreactor a little bit, but like he wasn't good last week, like Tyler was saying. He wasn't.
I don't know. He took Lance in what? It was 8 out of 12 drives they were in scoring position with a guy that was pretty raw. I understand that this is process related, right? I mean, results related. I'm sorry. You always want to look, and they didn't score touchdowns. They didn't score touchdowns.
They scored 10 points.
Yeah. So I could understand the criticism, but they moved the ball. They had more yardage. Now I don't want to do yardage because sometimes the trailing team racks up the yardage, but I mean, they did a pretty damn good job with the game plan. I mean, a couple of calls were weird, but I thought for them,
like him running that much. Did you like Lance running on that?
I think Lance it goes back to another debate. He's got to do, in my opinion, he's got to do a better job of protecting himself. Now you can't run him up consistently up the gut as much, but also Lance has just got to learn that you can't run people over. He did that. If you watch that in North Dakota State, he tried to bulldoze over so many guys, and a lot of those.
Well, he did bulldoze over so many guys.
He did, yes. But a lot of those guys are probably working retail jobs with me, so it's not ideal.
Yeah, but the biggest one was that 4th down, and he had to bulldoze or at least try something. You can't just protect yourself on that type of play. It's 4th down, you gotta, or don't run that play. I guess it's sort of like I don't know.
I think on that one, it's one where you think your athletic ability is better than the other guy across, because when he rolls out, he hesitates. If he goes, he probably takes a better angle at it. I think that he pulls up. I mean, you've got Isaiah Simmons, he's 4'3", 4'4". Like he's a freak athlete that's over there.
So where do they go from here, guys? Are they winning the division still? What's going on with them? Are we giving up on them? The Cardinals 5-0, Rams 4-1, Seahawks without Wilson. You guys have a bye this week. What do you think? Think they have a realistic chance to get back into it, or is there just a little overreaction to? Maybe not overreaction, but just they can actually get back into it here.
I think they can get back into it. I don't think they will. I think
it doesn't sound like it
without the cornerback, unless their pass rush improves dramatically, and then without any defensive backs, it's just going to be tough.
NFC East, the NFC's tough this year. I mean, there's some quality teams here this year, so it's going to be hard for them to get in. The Cowboys, to me, having them as a good team, but the problem is I don't think they're going to get 2 out of that division. The Raiders, they're a train wreck. They helped the Bears out last week. they're in the mix. The Bucks, the Panthers, the Saints, they're all kind of in there. Then you have the NFC West, where so the Niners have a chance there. They can get back into it, but man, if you have a revolving QB situation, it's tough in the NFL to be consistent. So it'll be interesting to see what they do for the rest of the year there. What team do you like? I always like to ask people this for the NBA. Like, what's a team that you like to kind of watch, and then like the most? I always say a Game Pass team. So what's an NFL team that if they're on, you're just like, oh, that's the team. I'm watching this team if I can.
I'm always Baltimore. I really like watching Lamar, and there's a lot of things that I see similar to what the Niners are hoping to eventually accomplish. So it's fun to see what they do in their scheme. Nice. And be like, okay, can the Niners bring this over and incorporate it with Lance? Buffalo's fun to watch. NFC, probably the Rams. I really enjoy the Rams too, with a competent quarterback, running that offense.
Mine's the Chargers. Herbert's just fun. And then Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Eckler. This Parham guy that with Herbert, tight end looks good.
He has a man crush, and Herbert's his name. He's the guy there. To me, it's the Bills to me are the favorite right here. The Browns, I just enjoy kind of like their kind of the way they play a little bit. They're able to like kind of run the ball, but still score a lot of points. To me, it's kind of a unique. You don't have that too often in the NFL a little bit here. To me, it's pretty good. We're going to have this guy on from Tennessee on Monday night, and we're hoping to have. So we're going to get his thoughts on the Titans. So I'm looking forward to that game. That should be a good game. I always say if the Titans win that one, I'm going to look at them a lot differently if they beat the Bills. So we'll see at AFC what they got a lot to go. What do you got, T?
Well, you brought up the Ravens and being a comparative. The Ravens run more power runs, don't they? And the Niners are more the zone. Trent Williams makes it look like power because he's so damn good.
No, they definitely are. I mean, they're more zone, but you could tell with where they were going with their personnel that they wouldn't mind adding more power. I mean, I think Aaron Banks was kind of an example of a pick for them to take a guard that's 20, 30 pounds heavier than what Kyle's drafted. I mean, you could tell there's some thought process of that's kind of where we want to go. Not completely, but adding some of those plays into another wrinkle into that offense.
All right, so I watched a movie this week, Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. So let's get this, and then we'll get out of here on this part of it here. What's the good part of the NFL? Like, what team? Maybe it could be one you already mentioned real quick. What's the good part? What's a team that you like watching? A good team. I got the Bills. That's the team that's been the good team for me to watch. You guys got another one that out there that you think that's been good early on?
I'll throw out a shocker is the Cowboys and Dak and what Dak's doing. It's just amazing. I didn't think he was this guy. I didn't think he was like it. And he's way better than I thought he was. And I already thought he was good. So, and then he has all the weapons in the world and the defense with Micah and Diggs. It's a way better roster than I thought 5 games ago.
You got one, maybe, Matteo, that's been good this year, a team?
I'll piggyback on Tyler from the last topic. I'll go with the Chargers for them to be at the top of the AFC West after the start that everybody else had. Says a lot where they're heading, and they're finally healthy, and Herbert's just playing at a crazy high elite level.
I don't know how often you listen to the podcast, but I had them go to the Super Bowl before the year.
Damn. Hey.
I got the same reaction.
Hey, it doesn't look as crazy now as it did at the start. Everything's kind of breaking right.
We were kind of ripping on Tyler pretty good for that pick. That's pretty sure. But he looks like he knows what he's talking about now. The Bengals would be my dark horse, good team there. All right, how about the bad? What's something that's been bad, like about the league here, team that stands out in that area? Tyler?
John Gruden, the Raiders. Just the last week they've dragged the NFL through the mud.
That's going to go probably in my ugly section a little bit more, but yeah, that's bad as well.
Fair enough.
But yeah, you got maybe one?
God, I was going to say the Texans, but probably the Raiders at this point for the bad, because at least there's some sort of there's light at the end of the tunnel now. There's a coaching change, so there's always optimism for a coaching change. And then I guess I'll flip my teams. So I'll save my last team for the ugly that I was going to use for bad.
For me, the bad's been the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been they've been way worse than I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be much better. They've given up 154 points and they scored 79. I know Tua has been hurt a little bit, but I thought their defense was going to be a little bit better than that coming off the season last year. So man, they've been pathetic. I like Coach too, but he's not doing a good job this year.
The update on this morning game in London, 13-10 Miami. Tua has thrown the ball 29 times at halftime.
That's shocking to me that they do it.
He's only probably got like 150 yards.
Yeah.
187.
All right, how about ugly here? What's ugly? You can't use the Raiders either. You've already used them for bad. So you got something else that's been ugly. I'll go first.
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer's ugly too.
I think for me, I'm gonna go a little harder. This probably could have gone under the bad thing too, but the Chiefs, an ugly start to the season. Mahomes leading the league at interceptions, a shocker. I think everybody just assumes they're gonna bounce back and kind of turn it around, but maybe Mahomes winning 35 championships isn't gonna happen anymore. There is this reality that sets in with the NFL over time. It's really hard to win. And so, he's starting to experience some of those issues, like the Niners are injuries. offensive line sucks. You have to run out around a lot. You know what I mean? Like, so I to me, maybe it's not quite ugly, but I already used, that's kind of where I'm going to go with them. Kind of mix it up since we already talked about the Raiders.
I've seen a lot of people, I don't want to say completely buried, but, have said what they said about Kansas City. I mean, with the extra wild card, it makes it tough to completely rule out a team like that. I mean, if you're staring at them and they're 6th or 7th and you're as the wild card seeding, the 2 and 3 team that's not who they're going to want to play. Teams are going to throw games to avoid Kansas City down the stretch. I have a hard time believing that this is it for their run.
Now, if they lose today, then that changes the.
Who do they play? I got to. Oh, they play.
They play Washington.
Yeah.
So if they lose there, go to 2 and 4. I think then that I really start. I think people are going to really start to jump off that bandwagon for sure. You got another team you want to throw out there as like an ugly situation? How about your boy Tyler, Jimmy Clausen Jr., Zach Wilson?
Jets are a joke. They're a dumpster fire. I feel bad for Salah. He should have stayed in San Francisco, waited for another head coaching job.
I got the Texans. I just think that's such a lifeless situation. You've got probably a lame duck coach. You've got a quarterback that you don't even know. I mean, the legal issues are more important, but I mean, on the field, you're as a fan of, if you're a fan of that team, it's like, what type of draft capital are you going to get for this guy, if any?
Who has it worse, the Raiders or the Texans?
The surprising thing for the Texans, though, Davis Mills looks pretty good.
Yeah,
he looks pretty solid.
Or he looks competent, at least.
Yeah, for a 3rd round pick, I mean, he looks like a solid. At worst, he'll be a backup for you, and you'll save a lot of money on the backup position.
Matteo, I had the Bills versus the Steelers in the AFC Championship game, so I got to the Steelers. They've been kind of a real disappointment too. Ben looks down. I had the Steelers winning the Super Bowl against Tyler. Who do I have in the NFC? Dang it, I can't remember.
Rams.
Thank you. So that pick's been okay, but the Steelers one not looking good for me early on with that pick. But I keep saying, only one game under 500. So
yeah, and you get a Steelers or a Seahawks team without Russ tonight, so that's true. They should win that game.
How did that game not get flexed out?
It's pathetic.
I don't know. I don't know, because they didn't flex the Niners Colts either for the next week. They protected that game, so. I believe when I was reading into it, is you only get like one flex in like 3 weeks or something. So they probably didn't want to use the flex this week.
Let me get your take on a few games this week. What do you think of the Chargers Ravens? Who do you think pulls that one out? It's Chargers at Ravens. That to me is the only good morning game.
Whew, man, that's a monster game.
I'm
probably picking the Chargers since they're not missing. Last I heard, it was 17 guys that are on IR or injured for the Ravens. I'll just pick the healthier team and go with the Chargers.
Tyler's Super Bowl pick.
Lamar,
5-1. Tyler's Super Bowl pick.
I like that you picked them because I think the Ravens is the way Lamar played last week. I was never seen Lamar play so well. I didn't think he had that in him. I didn't think he had that in him at all.
Pathetic. The Colts. Come on.
They could have made either the bad or the ugly.
All right, here's kind of an interesting game for me. It's good. Cardinals have their coach out. They're 5-0 though. The Browns have Chubb out. Hunt's they say is questionable, but he'll play, whatever that means. What do you guys think? Can the Cardinals go 6-0? It's a 1:00 start. It'll be 4:00 in Cleveland there. So a little cold there for Kyler. What do you think of who do you think pulls that one out?
That's going to be a rowdy crowd.
Yeah.
Gonna be fired up.
I'm picking Cardinals go 6-0.
I'm going Cleveland. I just think it's tough not having your coach, so that gets rid of some of the game plan. And it sounds like Kyler's kind of he's got an injury too, whether it's a shoulder. He didn't really look that healthy last week. And I'm always going to pick kind of against the team that's traveling west to east or kind of east, going across a couple of time zones. I think the Cardinals are dealing with a lot of adversity this week, so I'm going to pick Cleveland.
And I've always said I think Hunt is just as good of a running back as Chubb. He's not as good of a runner, but he's more versatile. So it's less predictable what's going to happen. And we'll see if Baker's accurate. If he has a game, then
Broncos. Raiders at Broncos. Do the Raiders have any soul in them? Does Derek Carr, does he perform? Is it a bad, how does this happen? The Broncos and Raiders, to me, both get out to those 3-0 starts. They both come back to reality. I'm gonna go Raiders lose by 20. I'm gonna go.
It's tough with how great Denver's defense still is, even though I'm not a big fan of where they are offensively. And Teddy's still coming back from the concussion. I don't know. I feel like with Carr that they're going to have a little more fight in them, though. That everybody's kind of leaving them for dead. And I think there's going to be a little bit more structure on their, yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. I think there's going to be a little bit more structure on the way they use their personnel, though. I mean, like it's kind of weird. You pay Drake and then you don't use Drake. It's weird that you used a pick on Edwards and he looked good and then you don't use Edwards. But I'm still picking the Broncos, but I think the Raiders are going to stay competitive today.
So do you like Derek Carr then?
Yeah, more specifically, Carr's a hot button topic on this podcast. What are your thoughts on Carr?
Oh God, I talked to my coworkers because they're Raider fans about this. I killed Carr like the last 3 years and make fun of him for checking down and this and that. And then the last year and up till the 3 game is he looked like kind of like Lamar. He was pushing the ball downfield. He was making big time throws. Most of the football quarterback metrics, whether it's Football Outsiders, whether it's PFF, they had him in the top 12. So, I mean, how can I really push back on this? I still don't think he paid the guy, but he's definitely better than I thought he was.
The eye test for me, man.
Darren, your thoughts?
I watch it and I just like, somebody that I don't see how we could ever win a Super Bowl with him unless the pieces around us were at an elite level.
Well, the argument that I always made with Raider fans with Carr is because I felt that they were so defensive because he's a guy that wanted to stick with the team. He wanted to stick with the team, and they just love it, and they're gonna die for him. I thought with Gruden stuck there that you needed to get rid of Carr, and then if you got a guy like, let's say you draft a Herbert, it puts different pressure on your franchise. You're not stuck with a guy on a 10-year deal. There's pressure on him, but now it's different with Gruden gone. I don't know what direction they're going to go. I don't know what the new coach is going to be.
I think it all comes to where are they at in the draft. Can they? I think if there's a new quarterback, a new coach, we'll see who the coach is. That's going to make a difference too. If they hire an offensive coach, he's probably gone. That's what I would think.
I never told this story, but I was coming home from LA after the Chargers Raiders game, and I thought they were going to turn the flight around, and because 2 Raiders fans were just like arguing loudly about Carr. I was like, come on, guys, let's relax. I want to go home. And I was just like screaming. I was like, oh my God.
Topic. My problem with him, like I said, my problem with him is I just feel like he has moments that keep you going. I compare him to a Matt Ryan, but a little bit worse. That's my comparison, is a little bit worse than Matt Ryan. So, and Matt Ryan's quality, and Matt Ryan got you to a Super Bowl, but a lot of that had to do with other people around him too. And, so that's kind of where I feel like he is there. Or let me get a couple other games here, and then we'll get you out of here. Cowboys, Patriots, who you got in that one? At Patriots.
Cowboys.
I think the Patriots win this one. I think they pull out a one here. I think they go 3-3. Seems like a Bill Belichick special to me. Seems like a probably prime time game here. And then let's go Seahawks, Steelers. We got the Steelers. That's it's a must win, right?
Yeah, Steelers. I just I don't believe in Geno. I'm sorry, Geno. It's been 4 years since you've had your last start. I just don't believe in you.
He beat Tom Brady wrong. Monday. He was the last guy to beat Tom, all right? Monday night. Is that the stat or the last NFC East?
Last rookie.
Last rookie. That's what it was. All right, then big game for us this Monday night. We're like you said, we're going to be probably watching it because we're going to have a guy from Tennessee on Bills.
The One Piece Shark.
Yeah, Bills and Titans. It seems like the Bills would be the favorite. I just feel like the Titans need this game. I've been saying it the whole week. I just feel like they need this game. 3-3 seems tough. I don't know. So I got the Titans.
Ooh, I'm gonna go Bills Mafia. Still, just too much of a powerhouse on offense for, and I don't think Tennessee has the personnel to keep up with them. Add in AJ Brown and Julio being probably 70% at best healthy. I don't know if they have the receivers that can keep up in a shootout.
Yeah. No.
What hamstring? Oh, it's a little tight. I think the Bills offense is too much, and I think the Titans defense is a sieve. They don't guard or stop anybody for the most part. Mm-hmm. I do want to get into Derrick Henry though, and is this guy the best running back in like LT? I would say. Or is he better than LT? Is he better than?
He's not better than LT. No,
yeah, but he probably is off the top.
Look at the numbers. they're right there. He's special. I thought he was going to fall off this year. I thought the carries would catch up to him, and he just keeps fighting, motoring down.
Peterson's probably the one.
Oh, Peterson as well.
Right. That's the only other one that came to the top of my head.
It's just when I think of guys like LT, to me, he's the best. Like, to me, so it's really hard. Anything over him, to me, I have him as the best running back in my lifetime. So that's where it's hard for me not to see him in there. But he's damn good. That doesn't mean he's 3 or 4.
I like that Henery's finally catching passes. I think that'll change the outlook on how we view him with it being a passing league. Is if he can make a huge impact there, then he's got a really good argument. And he has to sustain it too. What is this, year 3s of his breakout, or year 4?
But some of LT's years, he only averaged like 4.2 yards per carry, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But he just had that nose for the end zone, and he did catch a ton of passes, and he was lethal on screen plays, and he always busted a big play. And Darren, you just remember him playing the Raiders so much, and he'd score 3 touchdowns every time he played the Raiders.
That helped his stats for sure. But I always liked him because he was good at throwing. Like, he was smart. He was intelligent.
He was good at throwing.
My point is, like, he was when I thought about him, like, to me, like, he's just one of those running backs that stick out to me. Because you're right, he was in the AFC West. I saw him more.
He was special. That's why
he just did so many different things in his prime, where like he could jump at the goal line. Like, he had like a sense for like the end zone. Like I said, he could throw. Like, he was athletic enough where they could do plays like that with him. I don't know. I just thought he was the best.
And I just looked it up on Football Reference, and he's only had Derrick Henry over 1,000-yard seasons, and he's already 27. This is going to be his 4th, unless he gets hurt. He's got maybe 3-4 years left.
But how many carries did he have those first 3 years? He was splitting time with guys he shouldn't.
Yeah, he was. But I mean, but if you're making the argument of like, he's LT, he's AP, I mean, those factors are out of his control, but they had that success early on, though. They're going to build the longevity, and I don't know if he's going to have that. And part of that is he was misutilized.
So is Frank Gore better than those running backs, though, because of longevity? No. Like, I don't think – I'm just talking like prime.
I mean, no, I think AP is better than Henry in his whatever.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah,
That's a fair take.
Here's LT's best season: 348 carries, 1,815 yards, 28 touchdowns, rushing, receiving. He had receiving yards. He had 56 catches, 508 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So overall, he had 31 touchdowns that season. 2,500 yards almost. What a stud. He was just the beast. I mean, his first 8 years are just sick as a running back there. Every season, look at these 28, and then the next year 15 touchdowns too. Crazy. He's one of a kind. Yeah, but Henery is on a little run. You are right. So we'll see what happens. I just don't. You're right. He did have a monster season last year to where
he's had one the last 2 years.
Yeah. So we'll see if he keeps making up to that LT part of it. Matteo, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you coming on, getting a little baseball in with us, talking a little NFL here, doing some picks with us for week 6 here. And maybe come around Clay time, All-Star break or something like that. Maybe we can get your thoughts on the Warriors. I know you like the Warriors.
Maybe it'll be more happy time. It'd be off-season for the Giants, a little more complete, and playback. So maybe I'll be happier.
So on a quick question. In our NBA preview, we mentioned Bay Area players who had big ovations when they came back. Will there be one bigger? Will Clay have the biggest one you can remember?
It'll be a memorable night. God, I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I remember Posey coming back and standing ovation. Who else did you guys have?
I had Jerry Rice. I remember when he came back on that Monday night, he got a big ovation. That was the only one I could think about from was a true kind of legend at that point in the Bay Area.
And then I had Lincecum coming back, not as a player, just coming back to the park.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. Bumgarner's was really nice considering everything. I mean, for him, for them to get emotion out of Bumgarner was pretty impressive. But yeah, I think Clay's is going to be just awesome. It helps that he had to come back from 2 injuries too. I'm sure that builds up the story. And he's a guy that on the sidelines you see really it bothers him that he's not out there, and I think fans can relate. It's a guy that cares.
Yeah, he's a guy. He's he like I say, Curry's like obviously the man, but he's kind of the guy that fans I think just truly.
They relate more to.
My dad always compares it to McCovey to Mays. Like everyone knew Mays was better, but McCovey was always more beloved. Like when they were playing.
Yeah, something about him that like a little different there.
I think it's because he didn't spend any time in New York.
Yeah. So hopefully come All-Star break, we'll have a lot to talk about, and maybe we can have you on sometime around then again and get your takes there. And at that point, it would be off season would be in, and you would know what the Giants have, so maybe we can get your takes on that as well come that time. So Matteo, thanks again, man, for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
What you bring to the podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, bud. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
Good one, Matt.